If you've ever looked at an Amish woman's hair and wondered how it gets that thick, that long, that full, without a single salon visit, without expensive treatments, without anything you'd find at a beauty store, this video is exactly what you've been looking for. Most people assume Amish women just have good genetics, that the thickness, the volume, the length, it's something they were born with. And that's where the mistake happens, because what they actually have isn't better genes. It's better habits, 3 specific habits that most American women have never even heard of. And once you understand them, you'll see exactly why your hair care routine might be working against you. I've researched these practices deeply, tracing them back through traditional Amish communities, and the science behind each one is real, documented, and fascinating. Today I'm going to walk you through all 3 one by one so you can start applying them this week. Let's start with something that sounds almost too simple to be true, and honestly, that's exactly the kind of thing the Amish are known for. Finding the simplest possible solution while the rest of us are overcomplicating everything. The first method is what Amish women use instead of conditioner. Not a natural conditioner, not a DIY version of what you already buy at the store. Something completely different. Something that works on a different mechanism altogether. They rinse their hair with apple cider vinegar infused with herbs. Specifically 2 herbs, horsetail and rosemary. And before you think, oh, I've heard of apple cider vinegar for hair, I want you to hold on, because most people who use ACV are missing the part that actually makes this work. Here's what's happening inside your hair every single time you wash it. Your hair shaft is covered in tiny scales, like roof tiles overlapping each other. Those are your cuticles. When your cuticles lie flat and tight, your hair looks smooth, shiny, and thick. When they're lifted and rough, your hair looks dull, thin, and frizzy, and it breaks. And here's the part most people don't know. Every shampoo raises those cuticles. That's just what cleaning does. The question is what you do after. Modern conditioners use silicone, a synthetic ingredient, to coat the hair shaft, and they push those cuticles back down, and it works for a while. The problem is that silicone accumulates, layer after layer, wash after wash. It builds up on the hair shaft, blocking moisture from getting in, weighing the hair down, making it look flat and lifeless, and eventually thinner. Amish women never had silicone. What they had was apple cider vinegar, which is mildly acidic, and that acidity is exactly what the hair cuticle needs. The pH of healthy hair is between 4.5 and 5.5. Commercial shampoos are often alkaline, meaning they disrupt that balance every single time you wash. A diluted ACV rinse brings the pH back down, which causes those cuticle scales to lie flat naturally. No synthetic coating, no buildup, just the hair doing exactly what it was designed to do. Now here's where the Amish took it further. They didn't use plain vinegar. They infused it with horsetail and rosemary, and both of those herbs do something the vinegar alone can't do. Horsetail is one of the richest plant sources of silica on earth, and silica, not silicone, silica is one of the primary minerals that makes up the hair shaft itself. When you apply horsetail infusion to your hair, you're delivering bioavailable silica directly to the strand. It strengthens the structure from the outside in. Think about it this way. Commercial conditioners copy the effect of silica by using synthetic silicone. The Amish go straight to the source. And rosemary, a 2015 peer-reviewed randomized trial compared rosemary oil directly to minoxidil. Minoxidil is the most widely used pharmaceutical hair growth treatment in the world. Over 6 months, Both groups showed the same increase in hair count. Statistically, no difference. The rosemary group also reported significantly less scalp irritation. That's not a wellness blog. That's a controlled clinical trial published in a dermatology journal. When rosemary is infused into ACV and applied to the scalp with every wash, you're stimulating circulation in the follicles consistently at low concentration without side effects. Amish women weren't doing this because they read a study. They were doing it because it worked. And now we have the science to understand why. How to make this at home. Fill a mason jar with fresh or dried rosemary and dried horsetail herb. Cover completely with raw apple cider vinegar, the kind with the mother, unfiltered. Let it sit for 2 to 4 weeks, then strain it. To use, dilute 2 tablespoons of the infusion in 1 cup of water. After washing your hair, pour it over your scalp and hair. Let it sit for 1 to 2 minutes, then rinse. Do this every time you wash. You will not smell like vinegar once your hair dries. The smell disappears completely. The change you'll notice first is texture. Within 2 to 3 weeks, your hair will feel different, smoother, less tangled, and over time, because the cuticle is staying closed and the follicle is better stimulated, the strand itself gets stronger, which means less breakage, which means more visible thickness. But here's the thing. That rinse is working on the outside of the hair shaft, what Amish women also do, and what almost no one in the natural beauty world talks about goes much deeper than that. And it's the reason I think this next method is the most important one in this entire video. The second method is going to surprise you, and I'll be honest, when I first came across it, I almost didn't include it. I thought it would be too controversial. But the science behind it is solid, and once you understand the reasoning, it makes complete sense. Amish women apply rendered animal fat, specifically beef tallow, to their scalps, not as a shampoo, not as a rinse, as a treatment, directly on the scalp, overnight, once or twice a week. I know what you're thinking, and I want you to stay with me for just a moment, because this is where the ancestral approach completely parts ways with everything modern beauty culture has taught us. For the last several decades, we've been told that animal fats are bad for our bodies, for our skin, for our hair. We've replaced them with plant oils, synthetic ingredients, lab-formulated compounds. And yet, hair thinning is more common now than it's ever been, something worth thinking about. Here is what tallow actually is. It's beef fat that's been slowly rendered, heated, and purified into a smooth, stable fat. And its molecular structure is remarkably similar to the sebum that your own scalp produces naturally. Not identical, but close enough that it behaves like a biological signal, rather than a foreign substance. It doesn't sit on the surface the way most oils do. Because its lipid profile mirrors your body's own oils, it absorbs, and it carries its nutrients with it. And the nutrients inside tallow are significant. It's rich in fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. The same vitamins that modern hair supplements are trying to deliver through capsules. Vitamin A stimulates sebum production in the follicle, which keeps the scalp moisturized from within. Vitamin D is directly linked to follicle health. Deficiency in D is one of the most well-documented nutritional causes of hair thinning in women over 40. Vitamin K2 supports the follicle's calcium regulation, which affects how the hair shaft is built at the root. When you massage tallow into the scalp, you're doing 2 things simultaneously. First, you're delivering those fat-soluble vitamins directly to the follicle, bypassing digestion entirely. Second, the act of massaging increases microcirculation in the scalp. More blood flow means more oxygen and more amino acids reaching the roots, the raw materials the follicle needs to build a thicker strand. This is the part that most women never think about. You can take all the biotin and collagen supplements you want, but if the scalp itself is dry, undernourished, and poorly circulated, the follicle doesn't have the environment it needs to produce a thick, strong strand. The Amish, without any of that supplement knowledge, were solving the scalp environment problem directly and effectively. How to use it? You'll want grass-fed beef tallow, which you can render at home from suet purchased at a butcher, or find rendered and ready-made from small artisan producers. Take a small amount, about the size of a pea, and warm it between your fingers. It melts quickly. Apply it directly to the scalp in sections, massaging gently for 5 to 7 minutes. Braid or pin your hair up, put on a hair cap or old pillowcase, and sleep with it on. Wash out in the morning with your regular shampoo. Once or twice a week is enough. The first thing most women notice is that their scalp feels different. Less itchy, less tight, calmer. Over weeks, the change starts showing up in the hair itself. Less shedding after washing, strands that feel denser, new growth that seems to come in stronger than before. Now, tallow addresses the scalp and the follicle environment. The ACV rinse addresses the shaft itself. But there's a third piece of this, and it happens while you're sleeping. It's the one that the Amish have been doing every night without thinking about it. And it's the one that modern women are getting completely backwards without realizing it. The third method might be the simplest thing I tell you today, but simple doesn't mean unimportant. In fact, once I explain what's happening to your hair while you sleep, you'll understand why this habit alone could be quietly responsible for a significant amount of thinning. Every night, your hair is under mechanical stress. As you move, roll, and shift during sleep, your hair is rubbing against the pillowcase. If you sleep on cotton, which most people do, that fabric has a rough surface at the microscopic level. Hours of that friction creates micro damage on the cuticle, tiny fractures that you don't see in the morning, but that accumulate over months and years into strands that are weaker, thinner, and more prone to breaking. And here's what that means for thickness. Your hair might be growing perfectly. Your follicle might be producing a strong strand. But if that strand breaks 3 inches from the root every few months, because of nightly friction, you will never see the thickness that your hair is actually capable of giving you. You're always starting over. Amish women braid their hair every single night before bed, every night, without exception. It's not decorative, it's protective. A braid keeps the hair bundled together so that individual strands move as one unit. No separation, no friction between strand and fabric. The cuticle stays closed and intact through the night. But the Amish don't stop there. Before braiding, they apply a light oil to the lengths and ends of the hair. Traditionally, oils like flaxseed, sunflower, or castor, whatever was available and pressed locally. And this detail changes everything. Your hair loses moisture overnight. This is just biology. The natural oils from your scalp, sebum, travel down the hair shaft slowly, and the process can take days for long hair. The ends of long hair are often weeks, sometimes months, away from receiving fresh sebum. In the meantime, they dry out, and dry hair breaks. When you apply oil to the hair before braiding, the braid structure traps that oil in close contact with the strand for 6 to 8 hours. Your hair is essentially soaking in moisture throughout the night, By morning, the ends are supple, flexible, and far less likely to snap when you comb or brush. There's also a secondary effect that happens over time. When you're losing less hair to nighttime breakage, the hair you've grown stays on your head longer, and hair that stays on your head longer naturally appears thicker. The follicle is still growing at the same rate, but now the strand is surviving to its full potential length and thickness before it naturally sheds at the end of its cycle. How to do this? Before bed, work a small amount of oil through the lengths and ends of your hair. Not the roots, just from the mid-shaft down. You don't need much. Then braid your hair in 1 or 2 loose braids. Loose matters. A tight braid can create tension on the follicle at the hairline, which over time can cause its own kind of damage. Keep it gentle. Secure with a fabric hair tie, not an elastic band. And if you want to take it one step further, sleep on a satin or silk pillowcase. Even with the braid, a smoother surface reduces what little friction remains. You can start tonight. That's the thing about this method. There's no preparation, no ingredient to source, no waiting for an infusion to be ready. Just oil, braid, sleep. So let's bring this together because I want you to walk away from this video with a clear picture of what the Amish actually understood about hair that modern beauty culture has forgotten. They understood that thickness comes from 3 places: a clean, balanced scalp environment, which the ACV Herbal rinse creates, a nourished, well-circulated follicle, which the tallow treatment delivers, and strands that are protected long enough to reach their full potential, which the overnight oiled braid makes possible. None of these methods require a salon. None of them require a subscription, a monthly delivery, or a complicated routine. All 3 can be done at home with ingredients that cost almost nothing, using knowledge that has been passed down through generations of women who never had access to a single product from a beauty aisle, and whose hair showed it. The Amish didn't develop these practices because they were interested in hair care trends. They developed them because they worked. Generation after generation, the results proved themselves. And that kind of long-term, lived evidence is something that a 2-week clinical trial can't replicate. If you're ready to start, pick one method and begin this week. The ACV rinse is the easiest entry point. The tallow treatment takes a little more courage, but it's the one most likely to change what you see in the mirror, and the overnight braid you can do tonight before you even go to sleep. If you want to go deeper into ancestral beauty practices like these, the kind that are rooted in real tradition and backed by real science, everything I share comes back to that foundation. You can find more at ancestralbeauty.shop. And if this video gave you something you didn't know before, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Tell me which method you're going to try first. That conversation is one of my favorite parts of this community. I'll see you in the next one.